Reserve. We're with you for a fantastic round 10 clash between the Central Queensland Capras and the luxury paints Ipswich Jets. Great to have you with us on Phoenix Radio, phoenix.com.au. Smith somehow right down the instant touch line, 12-4 the score. Well, the first attacking opportunity the Capras had.
Hello and welcome to another edition of After the 80, where we bring you all the up-to-date local NRL news. I'm your host, Ben Wilmott, and with me on the panel today, as usual, is my co-host, Anthony Bomber Breeze. Welcome back, Bomber.
Thank you, Ben. Another big week of football there. We lost a few games through the wet. I'm sure we'll talk about them a little bit later on.
We did, yeah. There was a fair bit of movement. Also joining us on the panel today is Nicole McPhee, the Corporate and Community Engagement Manager from the Ipswich Jets. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you very much for having us along today.
No problem. We saw you down on the grounds on the weekend as well. Another wet one for you.
Yeah, jack of all trades over here. So I was running the barbecue and the can bar at the last minute change to the field, but no, it was a great day.
Well, I've seen you vacuuming the corporate centre after a game as well, so I've seen you doing everything now.
Yeah, definitely. It's all hands on deck at the Jets.
Excellent. And also joining us is Jay Woodward, the Diggers under-20s coach and the junior coaching officer for the Bulldogs.
Thanks for having me again, Ben.
No problem. Sorry, it's a bit of a mouthful, both of the titles on the panel today, but well, let's get into it. On the program today, we'll review the weekend that was in the representative rounds of the QRL and the IRL. We also take a look at the issues facing the Parramatta Eels and the Manly Sea Eagles at the moment. And we'll preview our QRL and IRL games for this coming weekend. First up, how about the QRL games on the weekend that we had? We had a late change with the Ipswich Jets being moved to the Tweed Heads home game at the North Ipswich Reserve. And what was that like, trying to get that all organised at the last minute, Nicole?
Lots of phone calls.
Yep.
We were very lucky we had the Ipswich City Council allowed us to use the field. Luckily for us, the reserve has got great runoff. So yeah, we're able to play, but it was not announced until Sunday morning at 9 o'clock, so it was a sleepless night.
Well, it was still good to get the game underway. I'm sure the boys would prefer it than having a midweek catch-up game later in the season, but unfortunately it didn't really turn into a result for the Jets, unfortunately, with a 22-12 loss. It was a little bit disappointing after the form that they showed against PNG the week before.
Yeah, obviously the week before there, I don't know whether it's a TV game aspect there where they seem to
the Jets seem
to love the cameras there, and they played really well. Last weekend it just seemed to be a very dour game. They just didn't seem to grind their way into the game, unfortunately.
It seems if they're finding themselves behind earlier in the game, they're finding it harder to get back into the game if they're chasing points, aren't they?
Yeah, well, it was a very slow start for them, and even their short kickoffs weren't working. I think their third kickoff, they've gone 100 metres and 50 metres and scored on them. So I think they got the next one and scored the next try, but they definitely were behind the 8 ball then, and there wasn't many tries scored in the second half. So
no, and it was one of those teams that they probably should have been trying to get up on, because they were sitting only one place above the Jets, I believe, going into that round. So definitely those games, they're the ones that they need to be winning if they're going to be making a move up the ladder at all.
Yeah, well, obviously when you're down the bottom of the ladder, you want to be beating all them bottom sides and all them around you. So if you would have won last week, they would have jumped another position above and so on. So it's probably a game that really got away from the Jets there. But
You think the Jets would have preferred to be wearing a different coloured jersey on the day, because it seemed a little bit of mix-up through some of the offloads and line breaks. They were going to the Tweed Heads players.
Oh, look, let's not talk about the jerseys. No, look, at the end of the day, we're still coming together as a team, so I'm excited to see what happens in the future, and I think we'll have a great run home.
Well, as we take a look at the ladder as well, unfortunately the Jets slipping down to 13th place, but they do face the North Devils this week. Again, only one place above them on the ladder, so hopefully a chance to get up.
Yeah, obviously another win there would have, like I said, a win last week would have taken 10 points, and then they would have had North this week. So a couple of wins, like I said on last week's program, a couple of wins, 3 or 4 wins boost you right up the ladder again. So
they're only 2 wins outside the 8 too, so they're not that far away.
It's still keeping in touch. Well, in terms of the IRL on the weekend, we only had one game that was managed to go ahead, unfortunately, because of all the rain. But it was a good game that did go ahead with the Fassifern Bombers and the Swiss Bluebirds. They were sitting second and third, and even though Fassifern got up in the game, it still doesn't change their position on the ladder, but it does kind of put them in frame for a shot at the top now.
Yeah, well, obviously being the only game on out there, I said most people got out to the Fassifern and Swiss game. Swiss started really well, got to an early lead. Fassifern come back, and at the end they were without 2 of their bigger players too, with Ray Bearer and Harold Mosby away with SEQ duties. So So obviously with Fassifern going so well, it's moved them up the ladder now, and they're probably the form team of the competition at the moment, barring Goodner, obviously.
Yeah, well, losing their representative players for that round, they were two of their highest point scorers and their goal kicking options as well. So for them to still be able to post 42 points on the second team in the competition, they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, well, it probably did get away a little bit towards the end of the game. They're a little bit of ill discipline, seeing a few of the Swiss players sent off there for back chat, and there was a bit of a fight near the end of the game, but. Discipline is the key, and Goodner have shown they've been probably the most undisciplined team over the last few years. This year, their discipline's in check under Laurie Campbell, and look where they are, top of the ladder.
That's why they're leading. Well, and what are we looking at for the games being postponed now? When are they going to be replayed?
We had an IRL meeting Monday night, and all the games will be played the Friday before Ipswich Cup. So obviously West End will meet Goodner in reserve grade and A grade the Friday before. Norths will play Brothers in the 3 games down there, and the Cobbrels will meet Valleys in the 19s and their reserve grade game at Springfield. Times haven't been confirmed yet, so obviously if you are at any of them clubs, make sure you contact your club and find your times. I'd say it'll be around 6:30 and then 8 o'clock, 7:30 for the A grade. So
it'll be a big weekend with the Ipswich Cup on, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I'm sure the boys won't want to be getting injured on the Friday night before Ipswich Cup.
That's it. Well, please stay with us. After the break, we will be discussing the verdict between the Parramatta Eels salary cap scandal handed down this week and the match fixing investigation with the Manly Sea Eagles. Also preview the upcoming rounds of the QRL and the IRL. All that and more here on After the 80. Welcome back to After the 80. More big news from the NRL in the last week, and it's not looking good for the 5 Parramatta Eels officials who lost their appeal for their suspensions to be lifted. We've got the footage from Todd Greenberg addressing the Parramatta salary cap scandal about a month ago now, but he's probably got the hardest job in the NRL at the moment with all of the publicity problems facing the NRL, and let's take a look at the press release that we had for Todd Greenberg addressing the problem at the time.
I've issued a breach notice that proposes the maximum financial penalty of $1 million, with $250,000 of that to be suspended if the club accelerates the governance reforms recommended by PwC last year. And most regrettably, the Parramatta Eels will be docked all competition points accumulated so far during the 2016 Telstra Premiership, while the team has been in breach of the salary cap. The club will be able to accrue points as soon as it makes the necessary changes to comply with the cap, and I genuinely hope that is very soon.
Well, yes, that was Todd Greenberg addressing the problem at the time, and with their appeals being squashed by the famous 5 for the Eels board, what does that mean for the club now? Does that mean the fans can start realising that the problem is definitely from the board and not from the NRL cracking down on them? Yeah,
well, obviously until the final verdict there, the club itself is still putting their case together to the NRL as to why not to be docked the 12 points and all that there, which obviously goes to the NRL this week. And the NRL said that they won't rush, so they're going to give themselves 10 days. So it'll probably be another 2 weeks before the final verdict comes down. But looking at all the evidence, it doesn't look good for us, the Parramatta Eels fans there. So
yeah, tough times ahead still.
Yeah, well, obviously, if it wasn't the salary cap, we've got a lot of other things. Like obviously, we've released Junior Polo, and then the Corey Norman incident, and
Nathan Peets.
Releasing Nathan Peets, and and now our biggest player, Kieran Foran, also out for the year there. It's probably been a black year for Parramatta Eels.
Well, it's definitely be a hard one for the fans, that's for sure. But Jay, what about for the playing group, losing those kind of players, going to other clubs? I'm sure Peets especially would have been a player that they would have liked to build the club around.
Yeah, definitely. Melbourne played that year for no points, so hopefully they've got something to aim for when they get it all sorted out and the players can band together and finish the year off strong and build for next year.
At least when they weren't playing for points that year, they still managed to keep that playing group together. So it was more of a siege mentality, I guess, for the players. They could buckle down with each other and they were going through it together. But it's a bit different this year with those players getting bought off, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, well, obviously, it's not good. The Eels were going good. They had a good bunch. There was big brotherhood there between them there.
There's a lot of feeling they could make the 8, for sure.
You've seen the video there, lead the 12 points on, and we're sitting in 5th position. So, unfortunately, that's not going to happen. And obviously, the fans and the players are the ones that suffer for the indiscretions that have been done at board level. So.
Well, we touched on it before, but we've got a bit of footage from Junior Paulo playing for the Canberra Raiders on the weekend, and definitely a player that Parramatta was wishing they still had in their front row.
Well, he was obviously making these charges at Parramatta too there. Look, Matt Ballin, wrong position.
Wrong time. It was a big hit, and definitely another one of those younger players that they would have liked to have been seeing develop at the club over years to come.
Yeah, well, he's only 22 years old, so he was obviously the future of the Parramatta forward pack there. So, but now with him gone there, obviously someone else will step up. Daniel Alvaro, he's only a young kid too, so. He gets his chance.
I did see Nathan Peates' father. He blasted the club a little bit there for the board members for not falling on their swords when all of this was happening. Do you think there'll be a bit of animosity between certain fans who were following certain players in the team in years to come?
Well, at least Peates gets to play maybe semi-finals football this year. I guess the rest of the boys aren't going to. So.
Yep. Well, especially with the Titans going so well. On the weekend, Ashley Taylor slotting the field goal and putting the game to bed, although they probably should have won that before that point in time.
Yeah, the Titans have been a bit of the surprise packets this year. I think a lot of them thought they'd be the bottom of the ladder this year, or down towards the bottom, but they've obviously picked themselves up, and good season with Ashley Taylor, obviously leaving the Broncos to come there, and he's got his chance through an injury down there, and I think he's
taking the most of it.
I think he's cemented his spot now.
Well, in terms of publicity for the NRL, we've also had a bit of a tough time with the Manly Sea Eagles in recent times with the match-fixing scandal from last season. There was a game between Manly and South Sydney, and a game between the Manly Sea Eagles and the Parramatta Eels as well. Unfortunately, the two games under investigation at the moment, and God, it can't be helping Todd Greenberg's job at the moment. He's got to be stressing throughout the year at the moment.
Yeah, well, that's with the salary cap there, match fixing is the last thing that we want to see. It's going to be hard to find out. You need rock evidence there. It happened with the cricket there. If they all band together and say we know nothing about it there without a money trail and all that, it makes it very hard. I hope it's not true, but normally where there's smoke, there is some fire there. So.
Well, Nicole, the Jets have built over a few years now a great reputation with involving in the community and quite an upstanding reputation of their learning or earning kind of background behind the players as well. It's got to hurt a club to have this kind of off-field issues. Pretty happy that you don't have to deal with that at the Jets, I'd imagine.
Oh, of course. We love great publicity, thanks to the QT. But we look, if there was a player who had an issue external to the club, I'm sure that we'd deal with it in an appropriate manner, as per our policy and procedure manual. But look, at the moment, our players are great. They all focus on community, and we've got no problems. So, so fingers crossed.
Well, that's good. All the problems are remaining on the field at the moment,
That's
unfortunately, for the Ipswich Jets, but definitely no problems on the off-field. The other issue coming out of the NRL at the moment is the Broncos trying to struggle through the Origin period, and there's been a lot of comments from Wayne Bennett kind of blasting the draw schedule, and he copped a little bit of flack from that as well. But do you think that comments were justified?
Wayne Bennett always cries poor at State of Origin time, and Ricky Stewart said he'd rather have his headache, so when these boys come back, they're always going to be stronger for it. I think Wayne Bennett knows what he's doing. There'll be a different side come this week, and
but Origin, I guess, the concept of it is to kind of reward the players who are playing well, and if that's always going to negatively impact on the clubs that they're playing for throughout the season, does that kind of take a bit of the shine away from being able to step up for an Origin level? And would you like to see it be a standalone fixture so that this problem wasn't?
Well, the players normally don't whinge at this time of the year. $30,000 for one game. for Origin, it's never brought up. Once the Origin's over, then the whinge starts again. But I think under the new broadcast deal that the object is that Origin will go to a weekend and it will be a representative weekend without NRL fixtures. So if Wayne can just hold off for a year or two, I think he'll be happy.
I think it's only going to benefit the NRL as well, just looking at the spectator figures from those games, that with all the star players out, fans weren't turning out to the games at all either.
No, well, that's it. Fans like winning teams and fans like to see the best players on the field. They're a depleted side there. Some fans sit at home, watch on TV, so rather than get out to the game and support their team.
Nicole, you kind of have that same issue with the Jets games when they're televised as well. Fans deciding to stay home rather than come out, but do you still see the televised games as a good benefit for the club, just to get the brand out there, I guess? Yeah,
definitely. We do a lot of sponsorship agreements in regards to our branding, so having TV games is fantastic for our sponsors. But unfortunately, when they have an option of watching on TV, they don't come out to our days, which often link in with a theme day. So, for example, it's great to watch the PNG Harmony Day on TV, but you don't get to come along and have a moo-moo or look at the food stalls or the other stalls, so you kind of miss out on the atmosphere that we create for those days. So while it's great to sit at home and be able to watch that while watching other TV shows and doing the washing, etc., it's always good to get down to the reserve and enjoy the game and get a feel of the atmosphere we create for our fans.
And they certainly did for the PNG game. There was a great turnout from all the fans there.
We had about 2,500 to 3,000 there, so it was a fantastic day, and we're hoping next year to have it even bigger and better, having some Tonga versus Samoan teams at Harmony Day, making it a full day. So every year we try and increase our community engagement and how we can do things better. So 2017 is going to be a great year as well for the Jets.
Well, it definitely helps lift the teams as well. We saw that against the Hunters. They definitely raised to another level, and it was a level we'd like to see them get back to.
Well, obviously, if they could play that PNG intensity every week, they'd be on the first page of our graphic there for the ladder. And so, but there's still a long way to go.
Lot of season left in the QRL, and there's some big games coming up on this weekend as well. What about the noticeable return of Matt Bowen to the Blackhawks as well? The Jets are going to be facing Townsville in 2 weeks, I believe. So that's an exciting prospect for the fans to come and see.
He was great too. Their first 3 tries, he had a hand in the first 2, and then I think scored the 4th. So Matty Bowen had a blinder of a game, and he's going to be good for the community up there. You've seen him taking photos with the kids afterwards, and even Facebook news feeds were all full of kids with Matty Bowen, so they love him.
They do, and he didn't take long to dust the cobwebs off at all. Well, after the break, don't go away. We'll be previewing all the action to come in this weekend in the Intrust Super Cup and the IRL here on After the 80. Welcome back to After the 80. As always, a big weekend ahead with the round 14 of the Intrust Super Cup kicking off with the Ipswich Jets taking on the North Devils, a game that the Jets will really be hoping to get under their belt, I guess.
Yeah, well, they'll be looking to get back in the winner's circle, obviously, after last week, and there's no reason to suggest that they can't against North, who are not travelling as well as
they're just coming off a loss as well themselves, so they'll both be feeling the same way going into the game, I think. Yeah,
well, Paul Lowe's down there now from the Ipswich Jets there. Hopefully he doesn't take too many of the ideas that he probably learned at the Jets down there, but obviously the Jets will look good, and I'm sure they will hit back this week.
Well, there's the prediction from Bomber. A win for the Jets. Excellent. Well, if we take a look at the Intrust Super Cup ladder, one of the biggest games to come this weekend will be the Dolphins and Blackhawks. And Jay, you were saying that that's the Dolphins' 4th game at home as well.
Yeah, and the last 3 that they've won, they've missed the start of the season getting renovations at the club, and the last 3 games they've won pretty convincingly, so they're turning Redcliffe back into a bit of a fortress by the sounds of things. So good
time for them to be hitting their straps as well.
Yeah, it's going to be first, third, I think it is, isn't it? And it's going to be a cracker of a game. So
yeah, hopefully Channel 9 can be broadcasting that one across so that we can all get a watch of it. Otherwise we'll be hanging out for the highlights reel afterwards, but definitely a great game. And the ladder's starting to take shape as well, with the Falcons and the Pride taking on each other in 6th and 7th as well. That'll be another good one for both of them to remain in the top 8 as well.
Yeah, well, as you've seen on the last graphic there, there's a lot of movement can be made with 6 playing 7 and 12 playing 13 and 2's playing 3. So a win by the team underneath there jumps them over the top and hopefully propels them on for the rest of the season. So
Yep, well, the Jets have got the Black Hawks the week after, I believe, in Townsville, so that'll be a tough game for them. So they'll be hoping to go in with a win for that one.
Yeah, it always is. We like playing the Black Hawks, especially when we have our Defence Force days. But yeah, coming into the grand final last year, it was fantastic to win over them.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully we can do it again next weekend.
Well, it's a good rivalry that's emerging between the two teams.
It certainly is.
And if we look at the IRL for this weekend coming up, we've got the West End taking on Norths, Swiss Bluebirds taking on Brothers, and the Goodna Eagles taking on Fassifern. Obviously with Goodna in first and Fassifern tied for second, just in third in point differential. That'll be the game of the round, I'd imagine.
yeah, well, 1 versus 3 on form. They're probably the two informed teams, so that's going to be a cracker of a game. Goodna just seemed to win them tight games, and Fassifern, they'll be back to full strength with Harold and Ray back again for them. So
Yep, that's it. And coming off the back of a pretty wet and wild weekend for the representative round as well, the photos from the field that they were playing on looked pretty waterlogged, the poor guys.
yeah, at Southport there, they didn't know whether the games were going to go on Saturday, but they did play Saturday, and unfortunately the SEQ team had a loss on the Saturday, but on the Sunday they got up for a good win over Northern. So
Excellent.
and I believe all the Ipswich players from the Jets and the Diggers had very good games. So
Yeah. And what have you been making of Goodness consistency? We thought that they were going to be dropping off by now, but they just look like they're going from strength to strength. What about as a Bulldogs supporter? That's got to be a little bit scary seeing a Goodna pack in full form.
Yeah, they're always the biggest side in the comp, and they're just their depth this year, I think, is what's helping them through. They've had a lot of injuries, and the guys they're bringing in are just as good as the guys that are missing out. So,
And a home game for you guys this weekend with Norths. That'll be one that you'll be hoping to win in the Kennel.
yeah, 4th versus 5th, a very important game. You want to sneak into that 4th, and you got West End and Brothers down the bottom of the ladder that need to start getting some wins together if they want to play semi-final football.
Well, there's not much between the competition at the moment, is it? It's been one of the tightest competitions in a few years.
no, well, this year's been the tightest. Like anyone, like I wouldn't be writing Brothers or West End off yet, even though they're down the bottom there. Like I said earlier, a couple of wins propels you back up into the top 4, and that's your aim, to get in the top 4.
And North sitting in the middle of the pack as well. If it wasn't for those 2 draws going, unfortunately, in the dying minutes for them in both games, they could be looking at sitting in second place as well. So they're not too far off the mark.
Yeah, well, they've lost. I think they lost nearly their whole forward pack from their premiership side last year, so they've got some new ones, some new and some younger ones in there. Some older ones are on the comeback trail. Brad Oddie obviously was injured a few weeks ago there. Hopefully they get him back there. He does the tough stuff up the middle for North. So.
And hopefully all that rain might have helped out with the Dust Bowl at Keith Sternberg Oval.
Yeah, well, they did get some rain down there on the weekend, so they haven't been training on the field for the last 2 weeks anyway, so hopefully try and get the field back to a bit better level than what it was in. So.
Yep. Well, that's definitely going to be the task for a lot of the fieldsmen over the next couple of weeks as well, getting the fields back to standard.
Yeah, well, other than probably the North Ipswich Reserve and Brothers there, who have like full-time groundsmen there with obviously the best facilities there. They're the 2 best grounds on the weekend. After the rain on Saturday, you wouldn't have thought you'd played at the Reserve, but I went over there Saturday afternoon, and it was in good nick. Off the field was a little bit wet, but the field itself was in excellent condition.
Excellent. Well, that's all that we have time for today. I'd like to thank my guests Nicole McPhee and Jay Woodward, and my co-host Anthony Bomber Breeze. Thanks for coming on board today, the guys.
Thanks for inviting us.
No worries. And we'll be back next week with all this weekend's results, and you can check out our Facebook page for more local league action. I'm Ben Wilmott, and from all of us here on After the 80, thanks for watching.